Welcome back to another episode of Clothing Brief, where we bring you the week's latest highlights in our industry. We're going to open up with a little bit of a hard story.
Yeah. Yeah. Ty Davis, an amazing, accomplished chef, artist, musician, and model, passed away this weekend. He left the St. Louis community pretty shredded, and you can see it in your face for sure. He was this multi-talented guy. I think he won Chopped.
He did.
He was one of the best pastry chefs in the region, multiple restaurants, the most amazing celloist after your own heart. Just an inspiration, a wonderful human
model.
being.
I mean, he is celebrated by so many communities, the creative communities, of course, the fashion community, being a go-to model, and the food and culture and music. There's just so many people that loved him. So it is a absolute profound loss. I know that we have some photos of him, which we'll have to dig up, because we had a wonderful opportunity to see him perform during the Alt Ball when we were covering that.
Yeah.
He was the cellist on stage, wearing a signature look from Mondo. So our hearts go out to everybody whose life he touched, which were many, many, many. And we're going to miss you, Ty.
And it's a real tragedy. I mean, this is mental health strikes without warning, and unfortunately he was battling with a lot, and few knew. They always put on a brave face, and then another one is claimed due to depression and mental health. So our thoughts go out to his family and friends, and he'll be sincerely missed.
Absolutely. Well, we had just gotten back from a trip to New York, kicking off the National Retail Federation, their big annual meeting, and we had an opportunity to be there with Coresight for some closed session
Contents and cocktails, which was great at the Soho House.
Yeah, and we learned a lot, of which we will be curating some conversations coming soon from some key leaders, and the conversations around what's happening with regards to AI and technology and just goals and executive leadership in our industry. So be on the lookout on our longer format podcast, Clothing Culture, for some really fascinating conversations there, of which Deb Weinswig from Coresight will be talking to us for capturing that conversation next week. But there's going to be some exciting highlights that are going to be happening just within the conference itself.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of startups as tech works. People are always coming up with new ideas, and NRF is no example. The Innovator Showcase there is showing a lot of different startups. Of course, synonymous with startups today in tech is AI. So there's a lot of AI engine and AI powered kind of new technologies that are out there. Shortlist is Athena. They're using, of course, AI to streamline fashion product development, unifying scattered data, automating manual work, trying to streamline that. Slip turns receipts into these kind of digital interactive touch points that help deepen engagement, re-engage the customers post-purchase. And we're always talking about these kind of repeat nods, how brick and mortar is still 85% of the business, and
how it's evolving.
Yeah.
A lot
the
of
new storefront, right?
Absolutely. A lot of great conversations there.
Yeah. Nixon Labs building an AI-powered digital production operating system, generates on model visuals, automates content workflows. Again, it's this whole simplification of process as teams are shrinking and they need to do more things. Brand Back helps boost product visibility. And there's a big shift as, the typical SEO going online. Now AI needs to be, you need to focus on the AI. It's the first thing that pops up at the very top. And and so for AI search platforms, Brandback is working on trying to boost some visibility there, embed circular resell, and then Super Circle, AI driven again, operating system, managing textile end of life, which I think that's pretty exciting. If they can turn waste into value for retailers, if there's this end of life and additional opportunities to create new avenues to sell that product before it goes into landfill.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful kind of
Yeah. So it's the
process.
retail experience and AI seem to be the core threads that
And will be for 2026, I'm
for
sure.
sure. Yeah. So, we are post holiday season now, being in January. We're kind of diving right into the harder times of retail. But, there was some speculation on the onset of retail of what was going to transpire during holiday season. There's actually been some record highs that many companies reported in this past holiday
Breaking the
season.
overall trend. So brick and mortar, the expectation once it all distills is that brick and mortar is looking at about a 1.5% gain, nothing stellar. A very, very slight gain this year in terms of overall revenue. Margins are certainly very tight. They're looking at about 3% net margins within brick and mortar. Online looks to be up a little bit more, somewhere in the 3% range. Most online businesses, if they're managed really well and managing returns and customer acquisition costs, they're looking at more of about a 10% plus profit. So that's distilling everything to a better than expected season with a lot of turbulence out there. But within all of that, there's some retailers that seem to really be hitting it out of the park.
Yeah.
And old names that have come back. The first one really being Abercrombie and Fitch. They're reporting a great sales season, about 6% full year revenue growth, strong performance, operating margins near 13%. And, they continue to invest in brick and mortar, balanced with digital and share buybacks to increase it back into the store, or back into the, the parent company itself.
Urban Outfitters.
Yeah, amazing there, right?
Aligned with Anthropology Free People newly. They're noticing some really great growth as well.
And they're playing with a whole subscription model, which
Smart.
is a big conversation today.
Yeah.
American Eagle Outfitters.
Speaking of another oldie brand, but
right. Posted record holiday sales and Aerie leading the growth there.
Yeah.
They're talking about improved margins. It really allowed the company to raise profit governance or guidance. So I think that's really positive. And then we've had this company in our news over the past. There's a lot of volatility going in.
With Lululemon,
but Lululemon continued steady revenue growth. And they expect results at the high end of their guidance.
And then Birkenstock, this is a brand that was once known as maybe a more
the
naturalist,
granola, the lover of the granolas. Yeah.
But boy, it has found itself in a fashion space today.
It's amazing how they're reinventing themselves with a lot of styling. It's you even picked up a pair.
I did. I know. And I like them, I have a quick question, Bret, for you. You talk about how, online is growing, and some of the examples you gave, the sales being quite high online and then, revenue being lower in store. My question is, how does things like
profit being lower in store, revenue is definitely higher.
Okay. Because how do things like returns, many stores are the hub for returns, even if you didn't buy it in store. And I'm curious if that impacts how it looks on the books, even though it's if a sale happened online but it gets returned in store. How are these things being managed in a lot of retailers?
That's a great question, and that is a question that a lot of the accounting departments today that are managing both brick and mortar and online are dialoguing. The antiquated method is that everything has its own channel. Online has a channel, brick and mortar has a channel. All of the costs associated with each one of those channels are built into it. You look at profitability based upon those channels. Online and brick and mortar, they're symbiotic in terms of a relationship. So the brick and mortar stores are supporting the online channels in a big way, and they're getting hit with the biggest amount of expense. So they're trying to really blur those lines. They're trying to recognize the benefits that brick and mortar is providing online. in some ways, in some chains and some areas, the brick and mortar store and the employees there are taking returns from online and taking the hits there. They're also fulfilling for online. They're managing customer service in many cases for online. So there needs to be kind of a blending of an overall picture between, I think, online and brick and mortar to really recognize what's happening in the picture, because each one's supporting the other.
Yeah, fascinating. There's a lot more that I know we can talk about just in that, and I think we'll slate that for an in-depth conversation in the future. Another company that has been in and out of our headlines is Saks. This is one that we've known has been struggling for some time. Last week reported that the CEO stepped down, and now we're just on the cusp of them filing for bankruptcy.
Yeah, you saw headwinds back in December. They had a payment due. I think it was like $100 million.
Yeah.
They failed to hit that. The whole luxury space, as we know, is going through some different periods of struggle, and Saks has been leveraged for some time. They increased that leverage by absorbing Neiman Marcus. And so, underneath that umbrella is Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, Bergdorf Goodman, and Saks Off Fifth. And I think definitely a Chapter 11 bankruptcy is imminent, even possibly today. They really need to restructure. This debt is weighing real heavily on them. When they did the merger with Neiman Marcus, it left the company with about $2.2 billion plus the debt load on that in debt. And I think with the softer demand, it's really complicated cash flow. But and they've got three contenders, capital groups that are contending, or at least they're being courted for deals in the billion plus range to help them through bankruptcy filing: Bracebridge, Pentwater, and PIMCO. PIMCO was a partner in Neiman Marcus as that sale went through. And so they're looking to go back and have that conversation. But the complications at Saks are really interesting. So ABG, the big kind of licensed brands group, they own 51% of Saks century-old nameplates, and in bankruptcy, that goes to 71%.
Okay.
And so that becomes a challenge with people weighing in to help bail them out. And then all of their real estate is held in a separate holding company that most people believe that those that, as they file for bankruptcy and all the debtors that they need to try to secure funding, they can't access the real estate. So there's a lot of challenges going on. The CEO, Mark Metrick, recently exited, obviously, based upon the instability. The company's chief executive, Richard Baker's kind of taken over. No doubt he's going to guide them through bankruptcy. I think that this is going to be a long, challenging ride. And as things go into bankruptcy, there's a lot of ripple effect through brands that are highly leveraged through Saks and Neiman and Bergdorf that aren't going to get paid. That's going to kind of have a domino effect, because that's going to start hurting people, especially if they've got a lot of exposure within those three organizations.
Absolutely. Well, I really hope that they are able to work their way through it. Saks is always a good resource for getting a glance at what is happening in the industry. I feel like they've been pretty adventurous over the last few years, and I always look forward to walking the floor in New York. And so I really hope that they're able to see their way through this and remain an icon in the industry.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It certainly has got to evolve.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that's kind of the highlights of the week. Kind of a troubling week, I would say, with some hopes of inspiration coming out of the NRF. And we look forward to giving you some deeper insights on those conversations. Do not forget to stay apprised of upcoming conversations by subscribing today.
And stay apprised on the tariff front on Wednesday with the Supreme Court. Not to mention the T word again, but that is a big thing that we probably will talk in more detail about next week But Wednesday, the 14th, could be a really big day based upon tariffs for our industry.
Good. Okay. Well, we'll make sure to report on that. All right. We'll see you here, same time, same place next